वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरदारी यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यशोदानंदन व्रज जन रंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय रात माधव कुंज बिहारी हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे जय प्रभुपदा जय प्रभुपदा श्रील प्रभुपदा जय विश्वपाद परमहंस प्रवर्तक श्रोत्र सदस्य श्रीमती स्वयं श्री भक्तिवेदांत शमशील प्रभुपाद की जय। इस्कॉन संस्थापक शील प्रभुपाद की जय। जय विश्वपाद परमहंस प्रवर्तक श्रोत्र सदस्य श्रीमती स्वयं भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्री अरदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिव गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण को अपने श्यामपुर राधा कुंड गोवर्धन की जय। श्री मायापुर धाम की जय। श्री वृंदावन धाम की जय। कंकमाई की जय। मनमाई की जय। भक्ति देवी की जय। तुलसी देवी की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। इस्कॉन भक्त मारा गुरु की जय। समावेद भक्त की जय। गौरव प्रेमानंद हरे हरि बोल। All glories to the assembly. All glories to the assembly. All glories to the assembly. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam. Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayam Dheere. Ashtaprayeshu Patreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhaktir Pavati Naishtihi. Hare Krishna. Welcome you all to the Saturday morning Srimad Bhagavatam summary study. Today we are discussing from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 24, Part 1. That means we will discuss slokas 1 to 39. It's a long chapter and a lot of important purports, so we'll try to squeeze in the possible time. ओम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुर्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकथा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुन् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगणरघुनाथान्वितं तं श्रीलं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी क्षिपानुस्ते प्रणमामि हंस प्रिय नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रस्ताव बोधले श्रीमति भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती गौरवाणी प्रचंड निर्विशेष कृष्ण बल पाश्चात्य जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री द्वैताद्वैत शिवाचार्य गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे राम राम हरे चलो पढ़ते हैं। Hare Krishna. So the chapter is entitled Chanting the Song Sung by Lord Shiva. It's a very important chapter and there's a lot of wonderful slokas with some good purport also. So we start with text number 1. Maitreya Vacha Vichita Ashvo Dhirajasit Prituputraha Pritushavaha Yavihopyo Dadat Kashta Bhratrubhyo Bhratr Vatsalaha. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The great sage Maitreya continued, Vichitaswa, the eldest son of Maharaja Prithu, who had a reputation like his father's, became emperor and gave his younger brothers different directions of the world to govern, for he was very affectionate towards his brothers. So we see here some important points. We start with some conclusion of the previous chapter. Previous chapter discussed about the life and characteristics of Maharaj Prithu. And in this chapter, it starts with explaining about the dynasty of Maharaj Prithu, his sons, and so forth. So in the first sloka, we find that Vijitaswa, he was the eldest son of Maharaj Prithu. And he had a good reputation, just like his father. And he also became emperor. And he asked his younger brothers different directions. He gave his younger brothers different directions to govern. And what happened? The host has asked you to start your video. My video is on.
No,
Is there
Prabhuji,
any...
video is not visible. Sorry to disturb you.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
video got switched off for some reason. Sorry.
Okay. I'll do one thing. Just give me a second. I'll switch on to my mobile.
Yes. Sorry, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
No issues. Good that you told me. 1 second. Okay. Is it okay now, Prabhu?
1 minute, Prabhu. Actually, no, not okay. I can't. 1
One.
minute. Yes. Yes, Prabhuji. I think you have to start your audio also.
Now is it okay?
Yes. Perfect. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Prabhu.
So the example is given just after Bharat Maharaj left to the forest. Sorry, his father Rishabdev left to the forest. He handed over his ruling to his sons, of which Bharat Maharaj was the eldest, and all the others were asked to help Bharat Maharaj in ruling the kingdom. So here also Prithu Maharaj left, and his son was eldest son Vijitasa was given the responsibility of ruling. So generally, the practice was that it used to be that the son used to take over the kingdom from the father, and they were all trained perfectly well. So this was one of the important aspects between the dynasties in the Esther years, and we see in the dynasties now. There is a tendency for the dynasties to continue the responsibility of father, but without proper training. So that is why they are called Shak Bandhus, just like Brahma Bandhus. They may be born in Brahmana families, but they may not have the training. They may not have the qualifications to perform the duty of a Brahmana. Similarly, Kshatriyas, there may be Kshatriyas who may be born in a Kshatriya family, but they may not have the training to carry on the duties for Kshatriya. So, but in the previous years, yesterday we see that they were all properly trained by the family, and also there was a proper system to give them enough adequate training to those who have to take over the responsibility. Text number 2. I will not recite all the slokas due to shortage of time. So text number 2, the translation says, Maharaja Vitijaswa offered the eastern part of the world to his brother Haryaksha, the southern part to Dhumbrakesha, the western part to Vrka, and the northern part to Dravida. Text number 3. Translation, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Formerly, Maharaja Vijitaswa pleased the king of heaven, Indra, and from him received the title Antardana. His wife's name was Shikandini, and by her he begot 3 good sons. So, the pastime that happened was that when Maharaja Prithu was performing a sacrifice, Indra came and stole the horse from the sacrificial arena. Now, Indra had a lot of magical powers, and he saw to it that he is not visible while stealing the horse. But Maharaja Prithu's son, Vijitasva, could see him. So, though he saw him, despite knowing that Indra was taking away his father's horse, Vijitasva, being very humble by his character, he did not attack him. So that means that Vijitaswa respected Indra even though he stole his father's sacrificial horse. So he somehow went there and he took the horse back in a humble manner. So because Vijitaswa respected Indra, even though Indra acted wrongly, Indra was very pleased with Vijitaswa at that time, and Indra gave him the name Antardana, which means one can appear and disappear without others knowing about it. So he got this name Antardana. And a good king is one who knows how to deal with the citizens or the sages in the right way. So they can sometimes be very tough in handling the personalities, and sometimes they can be very soft also. A good king is one who knows how to use his qualities when, where, and how those things. If one is very hard or harsh, the citizens become very unhappy. And if one is very soft, then automatically people tend to take advantage of the situation. Vijitaswa was a very humble personality, and so Indra became very pleased and gave him this name Antardana. Text number 4. The 3 sons of Antardana were named Pavaka, Pavamana, and Suchi. Formerly, these 3 personalities were the demigods of fire, but due to the curse of great sage Vashishta, they became the sons of Maharaja Antardana. So as such, they were as powerful as the fire gods, and they attained the destination of mystic yoga power, being again situated as the demigods of fire. So it is said that one who falls down from the yoga practice is elevated to the heavenly planets, and after enjoying his facilities for the previous services that he has done, he comes down again to the earthly planet and takes birth in a rich family or a very pious Brahmana family. So when demigods fall down, they come to the earth and the family of rich and pious families. So Antardana, the sons of Maharaja Antardana, they were all demigods in charge of fire, but somehow they were cursed by Vashishta, who was a great priest at that time. But they came back to their rest after completing the curse. They went back to their former position, and they got some mystic powers when they returned to the heavenly planets. So in practice of devotion service also, there can be many challenging times. but one has to go by Sadhu Shastra and Guru. Text number 5. Maharaja Antardana had another wife named Nabashwati, and by her he was happy to get another son named Havirdana. Since Maharaja Antardana was very liberal, he did not kill Indra while the demigod was stealing his father's horse as a sacrifice. So it is mentioned in the Puranas that the king of heaven, Indra, was very expert in stealing and kidnapping. He could steal anything without being visible to the proprietor, and he could kidnap even others' wives by using his disappearance art. So by becoming simply visible, he stole the horse of Maharaja Prithu. So although in the human society, the activities of stealing is considered very abominable, Antardana could understand that Indra was not a normal person. So he must have done it with a purpose. Then normally Indra, it is always said, there is always envy when somebody performs a sacrifice, because he is afraid that by performing sacrifices, they will become so powerful that they will occupy his position. So he performs all these stealing and activities and kidnapping, all those things, particularly when somebody performs a sacrifice. But Antardana could understand the position of Indra, so he respected Indra very well. Text number 6. Whenever Antardana, the supreme royal power, had to extract taxes, exact taxes, punish his citizens, or fine them severely, he was not willing to do so. Consequently, he retired from the execution of such duties and engaged himself in the performance of different sacrifices. So every king has to extract taxes from the citizens, but then it comes with a lot of if and if nots. For example, if a king extracts taxes and does not give protection to the citizens, then he is liable to take the share of 1/6 of the share of all the citizens of the kingdom. And if he extracts taxes but gives his protection plus performs properly as a king, then he shares 1/6 of the results of the pious activities of the citizens. So the king can suffer due to improper ruling also, and he can also have a happy life by proper ruling, and then he can go back to the higher planets. This is how the system was working. Antardana somehow, due to his character, though he was at that time looked at as a right king, he was not very happy extracting taxes. He was also not very happy punishing the citizens for their criminal activities. So he started changing his activities to performing sacrifices. He retired from his royal majestic power at a very early age. Text number 7. Although Maharaja Antardana was engaged in performing sacrifices, because he was a self-realized soul, he very intelligently rendered devotional service to the Lord, who eradicates all the fears of his devotees. By thus worshipping the Supreme Lord, Antardana, wrapped in ecstasy, attained his planet very easily. So Antardana was a great devotee of the Lord, and he understood that the purpose of life. So he practiced, finally he started practicing devotional service, and he went back to the planet without much of a difficulty. Normally, the sacrifices are performed for results of fruitive activities, and Antardana was, though externally performing sacrifices, internally he was very well occupied in devotional service. So he had no difficulty in performing his duties, and finally, after rounding up, he went back to the kingdom of Godhead. There is also a mention that Antardana worshipped Hamsavatara, though it's not mentioned in the purport, but then Acharyas have given a commentary that Antardana worshipped Hamsavatara at that age. Text number 8. Translation Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Havirdana, the son of Maharaja Antardana, had a wife named Havirdani, who gave birth to 6 sons named Barhisat, Gaya, Shukla, Krishna, Satya, and Jitavrata. Translation, text number 9. Translation, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The great sage Maitreya continued, my dear Vidura, Havirdhana's very powerful same son named Barhishat was very expert in performing various kinds of fruitive sacrifices, and he was also expert in the practice of mystic yoga. By his great qualification, he became known as Prajapati. So, Havirdhana had a son in the name of Barhisat. Barhisat is also called by another name as Prachina Barhisat. So we'll find these both the names in the coming translation and purpose also. He was also very expert in performing fruity sacrifices and also expert in practice of mystic yoga. So by his qualification, it is said that he became known as Prajapatis. So the Prajapatis are the one who are given the responsibility to beget children and increase population. And for example, Brahma, Daksha, Manu, they were also known as Prajapatis. And Barhishat, or Prachina Barhishat, was also one of them. Prachina Barhishat, it is said that was very expert in Karma Kanda sacrifices, particularly. Text number 10. Translation, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Maharaja Barhishat executed many sacrifices all over the world. He scattered kusa grasses and kept the stalks of the grasses pointed eastward. So Barhishat was very deeply into fruitive activities. So he used to perform sacrifices for getting the results of these fruitive activities. So he was so popular in performing this yajna that as soon as he finished one yajna in one place, he would go to another place to perform another yajna immediately in the nearby vicinity. So that's how actually he became very, very popular. And Srila Prabhupada mentioned that at this juncture, we cannot perform that yajna, so we can perform Sankirtan yajna in a way that I think something wrong. Okay, I'll continue as it is. So, Srila Prabhupada mentions that we should perform Sankirtan yajna in a similar way that the moment we finish in one place, we need to go to another place and continue the Sankirtan yajna. This is the recommendation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also. And another important point is that
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, your voice is echoing. Cannot hear you clearly.
Please continue now, Prabhu. I think it will be fine now. I just continue now because you are joined with two devices, no? That's why I think you were getting something.
the thing, and other than also was good growing pusa grasses everywhere. Wherever he would go, he would grow pusa grasses. Number 11.
Sorry to disturb you, Prabhu. There is some little
Maharaja
disturbance in the
Barhishat,
audio.
henceforward
Hare
known
Krishna.
as Prachina Barhini, was honored by the supreme demigod Lord Brahma, married the daughter of the ocean named Shatat. Her bodily features were completely beautiful, and she was very young. She was decorated with the proper garments, and when she came into the marriage arena and became circumambulating, the fire god that he her company. Yes, Prabhu.
Prabhu, some kind of echo is coming.
She
Hare
was ordered by
Krishna.
Lord Brahma, daughter of the ocean named Sutaturti. She was very, very beautiful by personality herself.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. There is some kind of echo.
Yes,
Sorry.
Prabhu, tell me.
There is some kind of echo that is coming. Some echo is coming.
How do I adjust it? I don't know, Prabhu.
Are you in two devices? Can you switch off the second device?
Okay, one second. Okay, is it okay now?
I think it's better. Yes.
It's okay, Bob?
Yeah, I think it's fine.
Okay.
Sorry for the disturbance, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
It's okay. So our Acharya is explaining that Shuddha Dhruti was so attractive that even demigods like Indra, Chandra, and all, they were all very attracted by her beauty, and they would come down to see her. And on her marriage, she was so beautiful, but she was completely decorated with saris and gentlemen jewelry in such a way that only her face was exposed. And when the practice was that when the bride circumambulates the bridegroom 7 times, after that the bridegroom and bride look at each other and then get attracted for lifetime. So the Shuddha Dhruti was so beautiful that even demigods would come and they would like to see her. And after that, the attachment between the husband and wife takes place. So Agni, who is supposed to, normally fire is a purifying element, and fire god Agni got attracted by seeing the beauty of Shuddha Dhruti while she was circumambulating her bridegroom Prachina Bargisa. Agni also had a very similar incident when he got attracted to the beauty of one Suki, who was the wife of the Saptarishi. So, Srila Prabhupada concludes the purport by saying that fire god fire is a purifying element. So, fire god himself, when he can get attracted to seeing the beauty of Shuddha Dhruti or Suki, what to talk about living entities like us who fall a victim to sex attraction, which keeps us binding in this material world. It is said that another example given is that Vishwamitra, he performed tapasya for 60,000 years. Then he became a victim of lust, and then late Menaka was born. Similarly, it is said that Ramba came, then Vishwamitra became a victim of anger. So the indication is that the opposite sex is capable of throwing the arrows by their thinking of their balls and eyelashes. This is how the living entities are bound in this world by the opposite sex. Text number 12. Why translation share about why Shuddha Dhruti was thus being married, the demons, the denizens of Gandharva Loka, the great sages, and denizens of Siddhaloka, the earthly palace and Nagaloka, although highly exalted, were captivated by the twinkling of her ankle bells. So that proper explanation is given that a woman is Shuddha Dhruti was already a very beautiful woman. And generally, Prabhupada mentions that a woman is, even if she is beautiful, she becomes much more beautiful when she gives birth to a child. So natural function is to give birth to a child, and therefore it is said that women become more and more beautiful as they give birth to one child after the other. So the more children they have become more beautiful. So in the case of Shuddha Dhruti, she was beautiful right from the time of her marriage. So because of her beauty, she attracted all kind of learned personalities and demigods just by the twinkling of her ankle bells. So demigods were attracted, they would come and try to see her because they could not see her without the ornaments and jewelry. But her body was completely covered with ornaments and jewelry. So text number. They could only, the demigods could only see the feet of Shuddha Dhruti, and just by her thinking of angry bells, they got attracted to her. Text number 13. King Prachinabarhi begot 10 children in the womb of Shuddha Dhruti. All of them were equally endowed with religiosity, and all of them were known as the Pachetas. So Prachinabarhi got 10 children in the womb of Shuddha Dhruti, and all the 10 were known as Parchetas. You will see how certain personalities Parchetas were as they see Lord Shiva. So, coming verses, they often see Lord Shiva. So, all the 10 children were all highly versed in the practice of religious principles, and they all possess very good qualities. So, when for performing religious practice in the tested years, the practice was that one has to execute a lot of religious vows. They have to perform strict vows and perform devotion service. They were all perfect in knowledge, perfect in behavior, and every possible way. So they were perfected personalities. Next number 14. When all these Parchetas were ordered by their father to marry and beget children, they all entered the ocean, practiced austerities and penances for 10,000 years. Thus they worshipped the master of all austerity, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the Parchetas were ordered by their mother, Prachina Sat, and then the practice in the Esther years was that before anyone gets married, they have to undertake some strict vows. And the Parchetas took the vow of entering into the ocean and practice austerities for 10,000 years. And in the process, they of course took a lot of austerities and worshipped the personality of God. So the earlier system was that the sages would go from Himalayas and so forth. This was practically possible in the Satya Yuga. But austerities or penances are required even before marriage so that one can lead a proper lifestyle life at a later stage. And if one gets the favor of the Supreme Lord, then he can perform all the austerities and penances without any difficulty. Of course, the penances have to be performed with Lord Krishna, the beneficiary, as the Lord himself says, Bhaktaram Krishna Sarvaloka Maheshwara. The Prabhupada mentions, giving a reference from Srimad Bhagavatam 3:37. Do not read the sloka, short time, but the translation is, even if a person is born in a family of Chandalas, the Lord lowest birth, one can get in society. He is glorious if he chants the holy names of God. But it is to be understood that by such chanting, the devotee definitely proves that he underwent all kinds of austerities in his life. That means that one is chanting the mantra Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. That means he has already attained perfection by performing a lot of austerities and penances in the previous life. Next, number 15. Translation. When all the sons of Prachinavarhi left home to execute austerities, they met Lord Shiva, who, out of great mercy, instructed them about the absolute truth. All the sons of Prachinavarhi meditated upon the instructions, chanting and worshipping them with great care and attention. So it is said that when they were Prachinas left home to perform these austerities, they saw Lord Shiva on way, and out of his mercy, Lord Shiva gives some instructions to them, and so they followed these instructions and worshipped him with a lot of care and attention. So it is mentioned that anyone who tries to perform some austerities and penances, they have to be guided by a bona fide spiritual master. So Prachina Bhadhi also was favored by Lord Shiva, and because of that, the Lord Shiva actually became the spiritual master of these 10 Parchetas also. And in turn, his disciples took his words very seriously, just by meditating on his instructions. And that is how they all became perfect. So the instruction given is that after being initiated, one has to take initiation from a bona fide spiritual master. Then the disciple has to undertake observing instructions very severely and sincerely. So Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti recommends that instructions of a bona fide spiritual master is the life and soul of the disciple. The disciple should not even think whether he is going back to Godhead or not. His first business is to execute the order of the spiritual master. 16. Vidura asked Maitreya, "My dear Brahmana, why did the Panchatas meet Lord Shiva pray? Please tell me how the meeting happened and how Lord Shiva became very pleased with them and how he instructed them. Certainly such talks are important, and I wish that you please be merciful upon me and describe them." So whenever there is a discussion between devotees of the Lord, they talk nothing but the Lord or the devotees of the Lord. So examples are given that Naimisharanya, Sutta Goswami spoke Srimad Bhagavatam to all the sages. And similar example is given about the discussions between Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. So Vidura was similarly eager to learn about the talks between Lord Shiva and Parchitas, which will be a very interesting part of the discussion today. Text number 70. The great 16 Vidura continued. O best of the Brahmanas, it is very difficult for living entities encased within this material body to have personal contact with Lord Shiva. Even great sages who have no material attachments do not contact him, despite their always being absorbed in meditation to attain his personal contact. So the point is that it is not very easy for anyone to meet Lord Shiva. The Parchetas were very fortunate because they got this mercy from their father Pachilapani. And particularly Lord Shiva does not come to this earthly planet on any. If at all he comes only on specific occasions. And this time it is said that when he is ordered, he comes only when he is ordered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna himself. And in this regard, there's a quote from the Padma Purana that Lord Shiva also appeared as a Brahmana in this age of Kali to preach Mayavada philosophy. That is to preach Buddhist philosophy. And this was none other than Sripada Shankaracharya. And Shankaracharya appeared to preach against monism, which was preached by Buddhist philosophy. And it was required at that time because Buddha came to preach non-violence. There was a lot of mass killing of animals. So Lord Buddha appeared to preach non-violence, and in the process, Buddhist philosophy basically focused on monism. And to preach against that, Lord Shiva came as Shankaracharya to preach monism, the philosophy of monism. Otherwise, there was no need for Shankaracharya to appear. Then later on, of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared and he preached the philosophy of oneness and simultaneously of one and different. So generally, people worship Lord Shiva for some material benefit. And although they cannot see him personally, but they can get a lot of material benefit by worshipping him. Text number 18, translation of Bhagavatam. Lord Shiva, the most powerful demigod, second only to Lord Vishnu, is self-sufficient. Although he has nothing to aspire for the material world, for the benefit of those in the material world, he is always busily engaged everywhere and is accompanied by his dangerous energies like Goddess Kali or Goddess Durga. So Lord Shiva, as we all know, is known as the greatest devotee of the Lord Vaishnavana, Yatha Shambhu. So Lord Shiva does not come very easily, but he comes when he is pleased with some personalities like the Parchetas. And Lord Shiva also is known to have a Sampradaya, or the Rudra Sampradaya, and it comes directly from Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva is also one of the Mahajanas. These Mahajanas are great authorities of the Lord. And there is a quote from Srimad Bhagavatam, Swayambhu Narada Shambhu. The 12 Mahajanas, Brahma, Narada, Shiva, Maharaj, Kapila, Swayambhu Manu, Prahlad Maharaj, Janak Maharaj, Bhishma, Bali Maharaj, Sukadeva Goswami. So they are all great Mahajanas. So Shambhu also means Lord Shiva, and his disciplic succession is known as Vishnu Swami Sampradaya. And the current Vishnu Swami Sampradaya is also known as Vallabha Sampradaya. Just like we are known as Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya, Shiva has got his own Sampradaya. These Sampradayas are authorized as per the quote from Padma Purana. Lord Shiva also does not come alone. Whenever he appears with his energy, and here mentioned about Goddess Kali or Goddess Durga. And Goddess Kali or Durga serve him by killing all the asuras or the demons. So sometimes Kali becomes very infuriated when she discriminates all the kinds of asuras. So that is why it is said that we can see a popular picture of Goddess Kali in which she wears a garland composed of the heads of the asuras. So these asuras normally worship Goddess Kali by worshipping her material opulence, but when these asuras become too intolerable, then Goddess Kali starts to killing them indiscriminately. These asuras do not know the secret or energy of Lord Shiva. They prefer to worship Lord Goddess Kali or Durga. So, as we all believe that we don't worship Lord Narayana alone, we worship the Lord as Lakshmi Narayana. But similarly, it is said that Lord Shiva is never worshipped alone, they have to worship with Goddess Kali and Lord Durga. Common man worships Goddess Kali or Durga for material benefit, but the worshippers of Lord Vishnu do not worship him generally for any material benefit, but they worship him to go back to Godhead. It's the basic difference. Also, Lord Shiva is in charge of the Tamaguna, or the mode of ignorance in the material world. And his potency, Goddess Durga, is described as keeping all the living entities in the darkness of ignorance. So, there are three modes of material nature: as passion and ignorance. Lord Vishnu is in charge of goodness, Brahma is in charge of mode of passion, and Lord Shiva in charge of mode of ignorance. So Lord Shiva takes care of his followers, and mostly births and uplifts, etc. And generally, those who are followers of Lord Shiva, they are the lower modes of material nature. But Lord Shiva, being very, very merciful to living entities, takes care of them also. And Lord Shiva is also in charge of destruction. So Brahma takes care of creation, Lord Vishnu takes care of maintenance, and Lord Shiva finally takes care of the annihilation. It is said that maintenance is much more difficult than creation and annihilation. That's why Lord Vishnu not takes the position of Lord Vishnu, he takes care of maintenance. It's number 19. The great sage Maitreya continued, my dear Mithura, because of their pious nature, all the sons of Prachinapati were very seriously accepted the words of their father with heart and soul. And with these words on their heads, they went forward the best to execute their father's order. So, example, the principle given here is that these Pachetas, they were all sadhus, and they perfectly obeyed the instructions of their father. The reason was that in the yesterday years, and it is true also in a good Grihastha's house, the father or a king or a spiritual master are supposed to be representatives of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is why they were given the same respect as much as the Supreme Lord. And it is also the duty of the father or spiritual master or king to regulate their subordinates, that is, those in their family generation, in such a way that they all become devotees of the God. So that is the duty of the superiors, and it is the duty of the subordinates to obey the orders of the seniors in a proper discipline. Text number 20. While traveling, the Parchetas happened to see a great reservoir of water, which seemed almost as big as the ocean. The water of this lake was so calm and quiet that it seemed like the mind of a great soul, and its inhabitants, the aquatics, appeared very peaceful and happy to be under the protection of such a watery reservoir. So the reservoir of water which the Parchetas when they were traveling, it was just like a lake, it was not an ocean. Unlike in the ocean, there is a lot of turbulence, waves, turbulent waves, and etc. This lake of reservoir water was very, very calm and quiet. So so many species of fishes and others were all very peaceful, just as the devotee's mind is very calm, quiet, and desireless. So, Srila Prabhupada gives the comparison because a devotee's mind should always be very calm, quiet, and desireless. Anya Vilashi, Shunyam, Jnana Karma, Dhyana Vikam. So, devotees are meant to be very calm and cool. Then similarly, when the lake was flowing, all the aquatics were also very calm and quiet. This material world is described as emotional exchange, always where people are agitated. But great devotees always like a lake where there is no agitation, mind. And those who are always fixed in the service of the Lord, they are not agitated by anything. Even if there are reverses in their life, devotee is never agitated. One might argue at this point that devotees also have desires, but Prabhupada mentioned that a devotee has a desire only to go back to Godhead, and the devotee is satisfied with that much. He doesn't have any material desires. He becomes free from practice, or he becomes free from any material desire. Number 21, translation of Prabhupada. In that great lake, there were different types of lotus flowers. Some of them were bluish, and some of them were red. Some of them grew at night, and some in the day, and some like Imudi were a lotus flower. In the evening combined together, the lotus flowers filled the lake so full that the lake appeared to be a great mine of such flowers. Consequently, on the shores, there were swans and cranes, chakravaka, karandava, and other beautiful water birds standing above. So the lake was filled with lotuses of different colors, and when there is a clear water and there are good lotus flowers, the birds like Chakravaka and Karandavas, they all come to such a place. So these birds also came to make the lake very much more beautiful and attractive. Normally, these birds don't go to empty places. Similarly, Prabhupada gives a comparison that those who are controlled by the modes of ignorance and passion, and those who are controlled by the mode of goodness. So those who are controlled by passion and ignorance, they are compared to those which go to filthy places, whereas birds like swans and cranes, they go to clear waters. They are compared to one of the 622 translation about Bhagavatam. There were various trees and creepers on all sides of the lake, and there were many bumblebees humming all about them. The trees appeared to be very jolly due to the sweet humming of the bumblebees and the saffron which was contained in the lotus flowers were being thrown into the air. These all created such an atmosphere that it appeared as though a festival place. So there were a lot of nice, beautiful, attractive cane trees and flowers, which made the atmosphere very, very attractive. So from this, the conclusion is that the Parchetas received rich Shivaloka, which is supposed to be somewhere near the Himalaya mountains, not dwelling slokas and 44. 623. The sons of the king became very much amazed when they heard vibrations from various drums and kettle drums, along with other orderly musical sounds pleasing to hear. The place where the Parchetas arrived was the abode of Lord Shiva. That's the Shivaloka. Normally, Prabhupada mentioned that the followers of Lord Shiva are impersonalists, but Lord Shiva is never without a variety. There are always varieties. Next, number 24 and 25. The Parchetas were fortunate to see Lord Shiva, the chief of the demigods, emerging from the water with his associates. His bodily luster was just like molten gold. His throat was bluish, and he had 3 eyes which looked very mercifully upon his devotees. He was accompanied by many musicians who were glorifying him. As soon as the Parchetas saw Lord Shiva, they immediately offered their obeisances in great amazement and fell down at the lotus feet of the Lord. So Lord Shiva doesn't come alone, he's always accompanied by denizens of the higher planets, known as the Gandharvas and Kinnaras. These Gandharvas are all those who can go from one planet to the other planet, they have the flying capacity. And they all have experts in musical science, dancing, and so forth. So Lord Shiva is always accompanied by these Gandharvas. Then there is a mention about the color of Lord Shiva. Well into that. Another important point that's mentioned here is that amongst all the demigods, Lord Shiva is known as Asutosha because he's unmerciful. He can be pacified even by the lowest classes of mind. As I mentioned, his followers are generally simple. Lord Shiva himself puts ashes on his body and lives in the forest. He has a garland of skulls and so forth. So the people who follow followers who are his followers, they are also in the lower forms of ignorance. So, but Lord Shiva, it is said, they can be pacified even by such a low class of mind men by just offering obeisances and leaves of a bell tree. This leaves of bell tree very near to Lord Shiva. And Asutosha, the name Asutosha is given because he can be pleased very quickly. One example is given in the Shastras about a demon called Prakasura who worshipped Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva gave him benediction that by touching on his head, that person can be killed. Not well into that because past text 6. Lord Shiva became very pleased with the Pachitas because generally Lord Shiva is the protector of pious persons and persons of gentle behavior. Being very much pleased with the princess, he began to speak as follows. So the Supreme Personality was known as Bhakta Vatsala. And here we find that Lord Shiva is described as Dharma Vatsala. That means Dharma Vatsala refers to a person who lives according to religious principles. The religious principles are laid down by the Lord, as it is explained in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Dharmam Sakshat Bhagavat Pranitam. But those who follow these religious principles, they become very humble and personal, good characteristics, and Lord Shiva becomes very pleased with such type of personalities. So sometimes Lord Shiva has to deal with persons in the mode of passion and ignorance also, but Lord Shiva becomes very pleased when somebody is following the religious principles laid down by the Supreme Lord. And as soon as Lord Shiva sees that his devotees are following religious principles, Lord Shiva blesses them. So the Pachetas, who are sons of Asina Barhi, they are very naturally very gentle by nature and very pious. And because of that, Lord Shiva is very immediately pleased with them. Lord Shiva could understand that these were all Vaishnavas, and Lord Shiva becomes very pleased when he sees Vaishnavas. This is one of the reasons that the Pachetas could see Lord Shiva. 27, as we said, Lord Shiva said, "You are all sons of King Prachina Bargi, and I wish all good fortune to you. I also know what you are going to do, and therefore I am visible to you just to show my mercy." So in this sloka, Lord Shiva is declaring as to how the Pachetas became fortunate enough to see Lord Shiva. I repeat this translation again because it's very important to take us to the next few slokas. You are all sons of King Prachina Barhisa, and I wish God good fortune to you. So Lord Shiva blesses those who are gentle and humble by nature, and he blesses all the Vaishnavas also. And he says, I know what you are going to do. That is the reason I am visible to you, just to give my mercy for you. So here, Lord Shiva indicates that princes were going down to perform austerities for a higher purpose. So Lord Shiva became very pleased with them, and he appeared himself to give them these blessings of good fortune. So in the indication is that even those who are not yet fully a devotee of personality of Godhead, but just to have a desire to serve the Lord, receives the benediction of demigods like Brahma and Shiva, etc. So if someone has even a little bit of change of desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are always blessed by demigods like Brahma or Shiva and other demigods also. So just by simply worshipping the Lord's supreme desire to worship the Supreme Lord, one can get material, one can get benediction from the demigods also, because they become priests when someone becomes a devotee of the Supreme Lord. So they automatically offer him a lot of benedictions. That means if one desires to serve the Supreme Lord, the demigods automatically give even material benedictions, of course. These material benedictions are also given by the mercy of the Lord, but the Lord knows who deserves what, and who deserves to be given, and who deserves to be given. So the demigods are waiting for an opportunity to give benedictions or blessings to those who are aspiring to become devotees of the Lord, or who are wanting to serve the Lord. So there is no need for a devotee of Lord Krishna to separately ask for any benedictions from the demigods. It's in the conclusion of this verse. Text 28. Lord Shiva continues, any person who is surrendered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, the controller of everything, material nature as well as the living entity, is actually very dear to me. Also another important sloka, where Lord Shiva explains what is the reason that he had personally come before them. Because when somebody worships Lord Krishna, who is the controller of everything in this material world, becomes very dear to Lord Shiva. That means anyone who worships the Supreme Lord, Lord Shiva becomes very dear to such a devotee of the Lord. Lord Shiva is not normally seen, but when one surrenders to Lord Vishnu or Krishna, then Lord Shiva can be seen very easily. So Lord Shiva appeared in front of the Parchedas because they were all aspiring devotees of Supreme Lord Krishna. Here Lord Shiva openly proclaimed that one who is a devotee of Lord Vasudeva and who is surrendered to Lord Krishna is actually very dear. And so Srila Prabhupada concludes by saying that one who takes the Krishna consciousness immediately becomes very dear to anyone, and who is simply finding out and beginning to understand the Krishna consciousness as it is. That means one who starts to practice Krishna consciousness becomes very dear to all the demigods also. And similarly, all the demigods are also trying to find out who is an actual surrendered soul to Vasudeva. And because Pachetas princes were surrendered to Vasudeva, Lord Shiva willingly came to see him. So there are somewhat important points in the Prabhupada. I'll take for the important ones. Srila Prabhupada mentions about there are two kinds of living entities. One is called the Kshara and the other one is called Akshara. Kshara refers to those who have fallen this material world and become conditioned, and Akshara refers to those who are not conditioned. Most of the living entities in this material world, they are called Kshara, and the spiritual world, the living entities are called Akshara. Text number 29, translation of Bhagavatam. A person who executes his occupational duty properly for 100 births become qualified to occupy the post of Brahma. And if he becomes more qualified, he can approach Lord Shiva. A person who is directly surrendered to Lord Krishna or Vishnu in unalloyed devotional service is immediately promoted to spiritual planets. Lord Shiva and other demigods attain these planets after the destruction of these material world. So here there's an important point. The first point is that those who perform occupational duties, so these occupational duties are as per the Varnasrama system given by the Supreme Lord himself. So one who performs their duty as per their varnas and asramas, for varnas and brahmachari, the varnas and brahmachari, brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha and sannyasi, and the asramas are the ashramas are brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha and sannyasi, and the four varnas are Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. Each of these classes of living entities have their respective duties, which is given in detail in the Bhagavad Gita for each of these varnas and ashramas. So anyone who performs his duty for 100 births perfectly, for example, if a Brahmana performs his duty as a Brahmana for 100 births, even if he is not the devotee of the Lord, he can get the post of Brahma. And when he becomes Brahma, if he becomes more qualified, he can approach Lord Shiva. And one who is directly surrendered to Lord Krishna attains directly the spiritual planets. He does not have to go to Brahma Loka or Shiva Loka. The point is that those who attain Brahma Loka can also attain Shiva Loka, and from Shiva Loka they can attain the spiritual planets, provided, for example, if Brahma goes to the spiritual world, then his followers also can go to the spiritual world. So this possibility is also there. But Lord worshippers of Lord Vishnu don't have to go through this process. They directly go to spiritual planets. Srila Prabhupada mentions about the four varnas and ashrama, so far. So the Shiva Loka means a planet just beneath the spiritual world, where followers of Shiva go to this planet. The planet of Shiva Loka is marginal, but if one attains Vishnu Loka, he attains the highest perfection. This is the benefit of worshipping the Supreme Lord. Text number 30. We are all devotees of the Lord, and as such, I appreciate that you are as respectable as the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself. I know in this way that the devotees also respect me, and that I am dear to them. Thus, no one can be as dear to the devotees as I am. So, as I mentioned, Lord Shiva is Vaishnava and Yadosha. So, one who worships the Supreme Lord Krishna, he becomes very dear to Lord Shiva, and Lord Shiva also becomes very dear to devotees who are practicing devotional service to Krishna. So, both of them become dear to each other. And such devotees of Lord Krishna never disrespect Lord Shiva. On the other hand, they respect Lord Shiva as a great devotee of the Lord. Vaishnava Yatashambhu. The asuras worship Lord Shiva, take some benediction from him, misuse of that benediction, ultimately they are killed by the Supreme Personality of God. And because Lord Shiva is a great devotee of the Supreme Lord, he loves all the devotees of the Supreme Lord. So Lord Shiva told the purchasers that because they were devotees of the Lord, he also loved them as mentioned. But worshippers of Lord Krishna never worship Lord Shiva as an independent personality. They worship Lord Shiva as a great devotee of the Lord. Text number 31. Now I shall chant one mantra which is not only transcendental, pure and auspicious, but is the best prayer for anyone who is aspiring to attain the ultimate goal of life. When I chant this mantra, please hear it carefully and attentively. So here, Lord Shiva is saying that he is going to give a mantra to the Parchetas because Lord Shiva was like a spiritual master. He is giving the mantras so that by chanting that they can attain perfection. So similarly, the spiritual master gives the mantras to his disciples, and when one follows the instruction of the spiritual master, they can attain perfection in their life. So Lord Shiva is going to give some mantra, and also he is going to give some instructions to follow. We may not be able to read that, but in the second part, but we'll go through some basics of it. It's number 32. The great saints Maitreya continued, out of his costless mercy, the exalted personality Lord Shiva, the great devotee of Lord Narayana, continued to speak to the king's sons who were standing with folded hands. So Lord Shiva wanted to give his mercy to the Pachetas, so he starts to speak. And there's mention as Lord Shiva came to bless the sons of the king and to give them benedictions. And he personally chanted the mantra because by chanting that, the mantra would become more powerful. So, Bhagavatam mentions about Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So when a Hare Krishna mantra is given by a spiritual master, it becomes more powerful. So Lord Shiva advised the sons to hear this mantra attentively, because inattentive hearing is expected. Lord Shiva addressed the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the following prayer. O Supreme Personality of Godhead, all glories unto you. You are the most exalted of all realized, self-realized souls. Since you are always auspicious for the self-realized, I wish that you be auspicious for me. You are worshipable by virtue of the unperfect instructions you give. You are the super soul, and therefore I offer my obeisances unto you as the supreme living being. So from here on, for the next two verses, Lord Shiva glorified the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You must understand from this that before Lord Shiva gives mantras to the Bhaktividas, he seeks the Lord's mercy by glorifying the Lord by glorifying, describing the glories of the Lord. So here he mentions about the first point is that the Lord is the exalted, most exalted of all the self-realized souls. He also says that God is auspicious for all the self-realized souls. Therefore, he said that you be auspicious for me. So by glorifying the Lord Shiva is asking for auspiciousness from the Supreme Lord. And he said that you are worshipful by virtue of all perfection, all perfect instructions you give. So the Lord gave instructions to Lord Shiva, and by going through following the instructions, the Lord becomes very pleased. And he said that you are the super soul, and therefore I offer my obeisances and you as supreme being. So the Lord is the supreme of all the living entities. I'm not going to too much of details. There's some more slokas to cover. Okay, one important point that I mentioned is the word Atmarama in the verse. So there's a word called Atmarama in a sloka, which is given in the reference sloka by Sri Prabhupada himself. Impersonalists also can become devotees when they are attracted by the personal transcendental qualities of God. The reason it mentions that many of Lord Shiva's followers are impersonalists. So these impersonalists can also become devotees when they are attracted by the personal transcendental qualities of God. So the conclusion is that Lord Shiva wanted to remain as a fixed devotee of the Supreme Lord. That means Lord Shiva wants to be fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. Lord Shiva does not desire to merge into the existence of the impersonal. Because those who follow the impersonalism of Lord, who believe that the Lord does not have any name, he does not have form, or everything is impersonal. They are trained to the Brahma Jyoti. And in that Brahma Jyoti, life is like sitting in the flowers, the sun, without any activity. So they get suffocated and they come back to the material world. 634. Translation Sri Prabhupada said, my Lord, you are the origin of the creation by virtue of the lotus flower which sprouts from your navel. You are the supreme controller of senses and the sense objects. You are also the all-pervading Vasudeva. You are the most peaceful, and because of your self-illuminated existence, you are not disturbed by the 6 kinds of transformations. So here there is a mention of different qualities of the Lord. The purpose of Bhagavad mentioned the Lord as Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu lies in the ocean of Garbha, the universe, and from his navel a lotus flower sprouts, and from that lotus flower Lord Brahma is generated. So the origin is Garbhodaka Sai Vishnu, for the material creation. And since Lord Shiva considers himself to be one of the products of the material world, his senses are under the control of the Supreme Creator. So here Lord Shiva admits that his senses are also under the Creator, under the control of the Supreme God. So there's mention of Rishikesh. That means engaging all the service in the senses of the Lord, the highest perfection. So the Lord can control the senses of Lord Shiva also. So the Lord Shiva desires not to be misled by material senses, but to engage always in the service of the Lord without being subject to contamination by materialistic influences. So here Lord Shiva is seeking benediction from the Lord, saying that his senses should not be engaged in the material affair, but rather be always in the service of the Supreme Lord. The instruction for us is that we should always engage our senses. Senses of the Supreme Lord by devotional service. Text number 35. My dear Lord, you are the origin of subtle material ingredients, the master of all integration, as well as the master of all disintegration, the predominating deity named Shankarshana, and the master of all intelligence, known as the predominating deity Pradyumna. Therefore, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. So, Srila Prabhupada explains this verse, which is very important. This whole universe is maintained by the integrating power of the Supreme Lord, who is known in that capacity by the name Sankarshana. So it is not Shankarshana who integrates everything in this material world. Scientists might have arrived at a lot of laws like law of gravity, etc. But this master of integration is done by Sankarshana. And another important point is that the master of integration is also the destroyer of this world by virtue of his disintegrating energy. So Sankarshana is the master of both integration and disintegration. Integration is everything kept together, and finally, the Lord Shiva also disintegrates. So it is done through Shankarshana. Whereas Pradyumna, another feature of Lord Vasudeva, is responsible for universal growth and maintenance. So Shankarshana is meant for integration and disintegration, whereas Pradyumna, which is another feature of Lord Vasudeva, is responsible for universal growth and maintenance. There are four quadruple expansions of the Lord, known as Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. Actually, from Krishna, he expands first as Balarama, and from Balarama he expands as his quadruple expansion, that is Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha. And through these, he Lord, through quadruple expansion, the Lord maintains both the gross and subtle elements in this world. And where is it? Faster. Text 36. My Lord, as the supreme directing deity known as Aniruddha, you are the master of the senses and the mind. I therefore offer my obeisance unto you again and again. You are known as Ananta as well as Sankarshana because of your ability to destroy the whole creation by the blazing of fire from your mouth. So here, Lord Shiva is glorifying the Supreme Lord of expansion as Aniruddha also, who is known as the master of the senses and mind. So the Lord has a lot of expansions. He controls various aspects from the various deities. So here Lord Shiva is offering obeisances to Aniruddha. And this Aniruddha is also known as Ananta as well as Sankarshana because of the Lord's ability to destroy the whole creation by the blazing fire from the mouth. So the Lord manages creation, maintenance, and destruction through various energies and through his resources. So this mind is the director of the senses, and Lord Aniruddha is the director of the mind. So it is said that Srila Prabhupada mentioned one has to execute devotional service, one has to fix his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna. So Lord Shiva prays to the controller Lord Aniruddha to please help him in engaging his mind in the lotus feet. And then there's a mention that if Lord Aniruddha is pleased, he can help the mind in the service of the Lord. Another important point is that Lord Krishna, by his quadruple expansion, Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, is the Lord of psychic action, namely, we have thinking, feeling, willing, and acting. So Lord Shiva prays to Lord Aniruddha as the sun god, who is the controlling deity of the external material elements, which constitute the concept of the material body. So Lord Shiva is here praying to Aniruddha, and according to Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakura, the word Paramahamsa is also another name for the sun god. So sun god is addressed as Mahamsa, the devotee of the Lord. The sun god Example is given: the sun god evaporates water from the seas and oceans and then forms the water into clouds and distributes it over land. So when there is sufficient rains, then we have sufficient rains. Similarly, the word Paramahamsa is applied to persons who are completely clean. When there is sufficient sunshine, then the mind remains clear and transparent. In other words, the sun god helps the mind of a living entity to become situated on the platform of Paramahamsa. So Lord Shiva prays to Aniruddha to be kind upon him, so that Lord Shiva can keep his mind clean and perfect for his devotional service. An example is given: just as fire sterilizes all unclean things, the sun god also keeps everything sterilized, especially dirty things within the mind, thus enabling one to perform devotional service. Text 37. I have 3 more slokas to go. There might be extension of a couple of minutes. Please. Text 37, translation. My Lord, O Aniruddha, you are the authority by which the doors of the higher planetary systems and liberation are opened. You are always within the heart, pure heart of a living entity. Therefore, I offer my obeisance unto you. You are the possessor of semen, which is like gold, and thus in the form of fire, you help the Vedic sacrifices, beginning with Chaturhotra. Therefore, I offer my obeisances unto you. So, here, as Lord Shiva is glorifying the Supreme Lord, by which he is saying that the Lord can open the doors of the living entities for both the higher planetary systems as well as for liberation. The Lord is situated in every heart's heart as Paramatma. Therefore, Lord Shiva is offering his obeisances to Supreme Lord. I'm not going into the details of the sacrifices. Text number 38. Translation Srila Bhagavatam. My Lord, you are the provider of the Pitalokas as well as all the demigods. You are the predominating deity of the moon, the master of all the 3 Vedas. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you because you are the original source of satisfaction for non-living entities. So here the Lord Shiva is glorifying the Supreme Lord as one who provides even to the Pitalokas as well as the demigods. That means either whether they are residents of Pitalokas or the demigods, they cannot get anything without the mercy of the Supreme Lord. So Lord Shiva is glorifying the Lord. Then he says, you are the predominating deity of the moon and the master of all the Vedas. And therefore, I am offering my respectful obeisances and you. An important point that one has an obligation, as long as one is in the material world, one has obligations to his forefathers, the demigods, and so forth. Lord Shiva prays to Aniruddha, give him strength so that he can become free from all the obligations of the deities, demigods, general living entities, and saintly persons. So as long as one is there in the material world, there are obligations to our forefathers, demigods who are providing so many other facilities to us, and other saintly personalities also. But one who worships the Supreme Lord he becomes free from all the obligations to these personalities. There is a quote from in this poet from the 11th Canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is very, very popular. Let's just read the translation. One becomes free from all obligations to the demigods, saintly persons, pitas, ancient forefathers, etc. One is completely engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. Lord Shiva therefore prays to Lord Aniruddha, give him strength so that he can be free from such obligations and entirely engaged in the Lord's service. So the important point in this sloka is that as long as one is in the material world, there are obligations to saintly personalities, demigods, and our forefathers. But when one takes up a devotional service and fully engaged in a devotional service, then one is free from all these obligations. So Lord Shiva is asking Aniruddha to give him that strength so that he can become free from all these obligations. Lord Shiva also prays to Aniruddha to give him the strength that he will not taste anything other than the prasada of the Lord. So it's very important. Lord Shiva prays to Aniruddha is meant for this purpose. He prays to Lord Aniruddha to help him be satisfied by eating only prasadam. So Lord Shiva is satisfied by just getting the prasadam. Text 39. Translation Srila Prabhupada. This is the last sloka which I am reading today. Text 39. Translation Srila Prabhupada. My dear Lord, you are the gigantic universal form which contains all the living individual bodies of living entities. You are the maintainer of the three worlds, and as such, you maintain the mind, senses, body, and air of life in them. I therefore offer my respect to obeisances to you. So, this universal form of the Lord is an imaginary material form, because the Lord and all his expansions have spiritual form composed of everything plus the knowledge. And because we cannot comprehend the spiritual form, the Lord has given mercifully so that those who are materially conditioned in this material world can have an imaginary form in the form of a Virat Rupa or universal form. And all the living entities are, as you see, when the Lord revealed his universal form to Arjuna, and the form describes how all the living entities are absorbed in the body of that Virat Rupa. So Lord Shiva is offering his obeisances to this universal form, which includes all the living entities. And here is specifically mentioning to the universal body, which includes all their bodies, so that everyone's body may fully engage in devotional service. So Lord Shiva is praying that everyone be engaged in devotional service to Supreme Lord by worshipping this universal form. So the purport as mentioned, I'll read this line. It's in the book. Since this individual body is composed of senses, all the senses should be engaged in devotional service. For instance, a smelling instrument, the nose can engage in smelling the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord. The hands can engage in cleansing the temple of the Lord. Similarly, the life air of every living entity. Indeed, being the life air of every living entity, the Lord is the maintainer of the three worlds. Everything is maintained by the Lord, including us. Lord is the maintainer. Consequently, he says the Lord can induce every living entity to engage in real life's duty with full bodily and mental strength. So Lord Shiva's prayer is that all the living entities be engaged in devotional service to Supreme Lord. And the conclusion is that every living entity should serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead by his prana, the life, by his artha, wealth, intelligence, and words. So even though one may desire to engage in the service of the Lord without sanction, one cannot do so. So Lord Shiva is offering his prayers in so many different ways to show living entities how they engage in the service of God. So with this, I conclude the discussion of the 8 verse. I knew that I couldn't go beyond this sloka. There are about 79 slokas. I'll try to cover 39 in the limited possible time. It would be good if all of you can go through in detail the purport based on the discussion that we have had. That will give a lot of understanding on the mode of Lord Shiva's prayers to the Supreme Lord. And Lord Shiva is offering these prayers to the Lord before giving the mantra to the Chitas. So if you understand it a little more in detail by going through it based on the discussion we had, you will have much more perfect understanding before we go to the second chapter. With this, I conclude the class of the day. Whatever time they permit, I can take questions and answers or comments.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for a very nice class, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Very nice class, and thank you for advising us to read. We will read the chapter from the
Yes, Mataji,
book,
please.
Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat pranams. Yeah. Hare
Any
Krishna,
questions
Prabhu.
or
Are you able to hear
comments?
me? Yes, yes, yes. Prabhu, what I was saying is like what I understand is like this chapter seems to be very deep and very interesting prayers also.
Yes.
Maybe we should go a little slower, is what I felt. Maybe we should
The thing is,
split
I
it
was
into.
told part one. Ideally, from my side, what I would suggest is the last chapter, which I took from the last month. There were very few slokas with limited purpose. So I had to go a little slow. And this section, I had to go a little fast to complete the part one. So
Yes, yes,
ideally,
yes,
in
yes, yes.
these long chapters, one suggestion from my side would be divided into 3 parts instead of 2 parts.
That's what I felt like we should have divided into 3 parts, is what I felt, Prabhu, because we want to hear more. It's very interesting. That's why. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, this has to be done at your end.
Sir, Prabhu?
This has to be done from this exercise has to be done from your end.
Yes, yes, my end only. It's our end only, Prabhu. Yes, that's what I was saying. From our end only, we should have done it.
What we can do
2
is
parts.
up to 50 slokas or 60 slokas, you can try 2 parts. Beyond that, it's good to have 3 parts. But of course, there is a lot of emphasis. One has to look into the purpose also before dividing it, because like I mentioned last chapter, I had to extend, I had to shorten, because there was very limited purpose to discuss. But these are so many purposes and a lot of important points for discussion.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. Maybe we should have some other dedicated session also, Shiva Gita, something like that. Dedicated program like that. It will be interesting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Dedicated lecture series will be interesting, Prabhu. I'm saying separate on this.
Yeah, I understand. I understand.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. I'm sorry for some interferences in terms of the sound or
That's fine,
video and all.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all very much. Granthrat Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you all very much. Dandavats.